With our IK-FK setup, we now want to be able to control the twist that happens here. So you'll notice as we rotate this, we're just pinching here, and we really want to get at least half of that rotation happening here, so that it has a nice natural fall off. So what we need to do is we're going to be very conscious about what is controlling that joint, okay? Because we can't have anything that would be considered a child of this joint control this. So we can't have our skin joints control this orientation at all. And on top of that, I don't think we can have the FK control, or we can't have the FK wrist joint control that either, because it would be influenced from it as well, I believe. So there's a couple ways that we can tackle this. So we need to go back into our node editor, and we're going to create some connections in regards to our twist. So our twist on this joint is 0. The twist on our FK and IK wrist should also be 0. So what we want to do is we want to say, hey, when this left wrist IK isn't twisted, if we twist it now, we'll see this left wrist, our FK, will be twisted 45 degrees. And if we switch that on, we do the same thing, it's going to twist our IK wrist equally. So we are going to use, we're first going to set up the connection between the IK-FK joints to this wrist, or to this forearm twist. So we're going to open up that node editor. So we're going to go Windows, node editor, we're going to pull that up. We can clean this all up. Don't need to see all of this. And we are going to come over, we need to add in our switch, because that's going to control what is switching things on and off. So we're going to add that. Here's our switch, and there's that shape node we don't need. And then we want our left wrist FK, our left wrist IK, and then we want our forearm joint, the skin forearm joint. So we'll control select all 3 of those, and we will add them. So now there we have it. Okay, and what's going to happen, I'm just going to set this up so I know that this forearm joint is going to be controlled by the FK-IK, and the switch is going to tell them which one is going to control that. So we need to set up a condition node. Okay, and the condition node is basically an if and or statement, and it's basically saying, hey, if this one value equals this other value, you're going to do one thing, but if it doesn't, you're going to do this other thing. So we're going to hit tab and just type condition, and here we go. So here's our condition node, and you'll notice we have this first term, second term. If you come to your attribute editor, you can see these things maybe laid out a little more interestingly. So we have our first term and our second term, and then we have color if true and color if false. This node was originally intended for shaders, but it does all this functionality, and we're going to ignore color and it's just a true value or a false value. So what we want to do is we want just our rotate X to influence the rotate X of this, of our forearm joint. And let's say we only wanted to influence it by half of the amount. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up that IK and FK joints, and we're going to open up our rotate and our rotate. We know it's just our X because that's what's pointing down the bone. Okay, and we're going to say that our first term is the IK node. All right, so right now that we are saying if the first term equals the second term, that's the equal sign, then you're going to do this true statement. If it's not, do this false statement. Now, we need to determine, we want this, that when this value is 1, when it is true and turned on, we want the IK to have the influence on the joint. When it is false, we want the FK to have influence. So what we're going to do is we're going to change our second term to 1. So this value is not going to change. This value is going to change according to our IK-FK switch control attribute. So right now, if this is on, which is 1, so if the first term is 1, it equals that, which it is, the statement would be true. So we're going to take our IK, our true statement, and we're going to take our rotate X, and we're going to pipe that right into the color if true R. Right there. There's our value. It is a 0 value. And we're going to take our FK, rotate X, and we're going to put that into the color if false R. Okay, we just are using one channel of this. And then we're going to maybe scooch back a little bit. Okay. So right now, if we want this to control 100% to 100%, we can just take our output R. So it's just taking that value, and we're going to have it go straight into our left forearm joint. Let's open that. There we go. It's rotate X. So we can go out color R to rotate X. All right. So this is all good. You'll notice, if we had set this up wrong, then we would get this influence cycle error. Let's say, hey, there's a cycle immediately. That happens. You want to delete the connection, kind of go back and figure out what needs to control what and what you've set up that maybe thinking the parent or the child is controlling the parent, which we can't do. So let's move this over. So right now, if I rotate this, you'll notice I'm rotating this. I've rotated it this much by, 60 degrees. And we'll notice that this is also 60 degrees. So now all the twist is happening here, okay, right here. But let's say we don't want it. We want it to be 50% rotated here and 50% rotated here. Well, then what we need to do is we need to take this value and we need to half it, okay? So we're going to hit our tab key and we're going to start typing multiply, and we want this multiply divide node right here. It's already set to multiply. If you go to the attribute editor, it'll show you it's already set to multiply. So we're going to put in input 1. We're going to take our out color R into the input X. So over here in our attribute editor, if we want to get half of a value and we multiply it, we're going to just type 0.5 for input 2x. So this number will always stay the same. So whatever this number is, it's going to be divided or multiplied by 0.5, which is half. We're dividing it by 2, essentially. So now we're going to take our output x and we're going to pipe that into the rotate x. And that will automatically get rid of that connection that we originally had going there. Okay. So now, if we rotate this, we're going to have half of our rotation on the wrists and the other half on our forearm twist. So there we go. There's our twist. And you can see here, we have rotate x is negative 22. This is negative 22. And our control is actually 45. Right? So it has halved that. So it's sharing it, right, between all of these. If you had multiple joints down here and you're like, hey, I have another joint that I want to share the twist in, well, then you would pipe that value into both of these, but at that point you would multiply it by like 0.33. And then you would pipe it in here and here, that other joint, and then it would roll it down equally down with that twist. If you had 6 joints, then you would do the same thing. You would divide it by 1/6 of that value, or whatever that value turns out to be. And then you would pipe that value, instead of just into this joint in the node editor, you do every joint down the line. So now we've got a nice little fall off, roll off that we have happening. We have this rotation still functioning, and we are happy with all of that. Now, when we do this and we twist, that joint here is going to be doing some more twisting on here, and then it's just going to half that with this. So we get that automatically. We don't have to worry about setting anything else up. Okay, we are going to return that to 0, return this to 0, and now we have a fully functioning arm, which is most excellent, right? This is exactly what we are hoping to get. So now we have done all this. We have the wonderful joy of doing it on the other side. So we now need to mirror that over and do the same thing on the other side. It's the same exact process that we've done and that I showed you, but we're going to do the same thing like we did with the leg, and we're going to mirror over all of our controls because we've already made them, set them all up. So we're going to use that to our benefit.